What began as a routine promo spiraled into on-air chaos when Jennifer Aniston confronted Jimmy Kimmel over his controversial divorce. Jokes triggering a blow-up that has Hollywood buzzing. The studio audience had no clue they were about to witness one of late-night TV's most uncomfortable moments. Aniston stepped onto the Jimmy Kimmel live set wearing her signature smile, waving to the cheering crowd as she settled into the guest chair. The interview was meant to plug her latest streaming project. But within minutes, the mood shifted from friendly banter to something far darker. Kimmel opened with his usual charm, praising Aniston's look and making small talk about recent work. The crowd chuckled as he riffed on her character's romantic misadventures. But anyone familiar with Kimmel's patterns could sense an undercurrent. There was a glint in his eye that hinted he'd prepared something special for this interview. "So, Jennifer," he began, leaning back with a smirk that didn't reach his eyes, "I have to ask about what's been on everyone's minds. Your dating life has been quite the topic in Hollywood circles." The audience anticipated garden-variety gossip, but Aniston's face tightened at once. She'd fielded invasive questions for decades, yet something in Kimmel's tone felt different. "Jimmy, you know I prefer to keep my private life private," she replied, her media-trained smile wavering. "I'm here to talk about my work." Kimmel didn't relent. He'd clearly done his homework and seemed intent on pushing lines other hosts had learned to respect. "Oh, come on, Jennifer. Everyone knows about the recent drama. The tabloids are having a field day with your love triangle situation," he pressed, his voice taking on a mocking edge that made several audience members shift in their seats. "I mean, at your age, don't you think it's time to settle down? The biological clock and all that." The words hit like a punch. Aniston's smile vanished, replaced by visible hurt and anger. The room went quiet, as if they'd crossed from entertainment into something personal and cruel. Kimmel had alluded to one of the most painful threads in her public narrative, the constant scrutiny over not having children and the assumptions about her choices. "Excuse me?" Aniston's voice was taut, her professionalism starting to crack. "What exactly are you implying, Jimmy?" The studio seemed to chill as they locked eyes across the coffee table. Behind the cameras, Kimmel's team exchanged worried looks, realizing he'd entered dangerous territory. Instead of apologizing, Kimmel doubled down with a forced laugh. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You've been Hollywood's eternal bachelorette for, what, 20 years? Maybe it's time to face reality about your situation." His condescension thickened to silence. The cameras kept rolling as Aniston processed it. This wasn't playful roasting. It was personal humiliation dressed up as comedy. Her hands gripped the chair arms as she fought for composure, though the storm behind her eyes was obvious. "You have absolutely no right to comment on my personal choices," she said, voice sharpening. "And frankly, I'm shocked that someone in your position thinks it's appropriate to mock a woman's reproductive choices on national television." The words were measured, but charged with years of pent-up fury. Kimmel seemed to realize he'd misjudged. But his ego wouldn't allow a graceful retreat. He made the fatal choice that defined the night. "Hey, relax. It's just comedy. If you can't handle a little joke, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The dismissive tone and patronizing gesture sent shockwaves through the studio. That's when something in Jennifer Aniston finally snapped and the real confrontation began. The change was immediate. Her carefully maintained Hollywood composure evaporated as she leaned forward, her voice slicing through the stunned silence like a blade. "Just comedy," she echoed, her voice edged with incredulous fury. "You think turning a woman's most private struggles into a joke is comedy? You think decades of invasive speculation about my body and my choices are material for your monologue?" The audience sat frozen, caught between fascination and dread as Kimmel's carefully crafted persona unraveled. Phones appeared as people realized they were witnessing live television history. the cameras kept rolling. The crew looked stunned, unsure whether to cut to commercial or let the train wreck continue. Kimmel's face flushed as he registered his mistake, but defensiveness overrode judgment. "Look, Jennifer, I didn't mean to offend you, but this is late night. We make jokes about celebrities. It's what people expect." His voice slipped into a whine, more scolded child than seasoned host. "Don't you dare patronize me," Aniston shot back, her volume rising with each word. "I've been doing this longer than you, and I know the line between professional comedy and personal cruelty. What you just did crossed every standard of decency and respect." Her hands shook not with fear, but with adrenaline. The tension crested as Kimmel made his second disastrous choice of the night. Instead of a real apology, he turned to the audience with a theatrical shrug. "Ladies and gentlemen, I guess we've hit a nerve," he said with a brittle chuckle, trying to recast Aniston as the architect of her own humiliation. The room's uneasy laughter was faint and quickly died as her genuine pain became obvious. But their weak response only pushed Kimmel further. "Come on, Jennifer. Aren't you being a little dramatic? It's not like I said anything that isn't already in the tabloids." That was the final straw. Aniston stood abruptly. Her chair scraped the floor with a harsh screech that echoed through the silent studio. "The fact that you think tabloid gossip justifies your behavior tells me exactly who you are," she said, steady but seething. "I've spent 30 years in this industry being professional, being gracious and tolerating comments like yours, because that's what we're expected to do. We're supposed to smile and laugh while men like. You build careers tearing us down." Words carried decades of frustration, hers and that of countless women in entertainment. Kimmel's color drained as the stakes became clear. This wasn't just a tough interview anymore. It was a moment that could redefine his reputation. "Jennifer, please let's calm down and talk," he pleaded, the swagger gone. But Aniston wasn't finished. "Calm down? You want me to calm down after humiliating me on national television?" Her voice cracked, revealing the hurt beneath the anger. "Do you have any idea what it's like to have strangers dissect your life, to measure your happiness, your worth as a woman?" The studio was so quiet, every breath sounded amplified. Band members averted their eyes. The sidekick sank into his chair. Even the usually chatty audience had fallen silent. Sensing something raw and unscripted, "I've shown you respect since the moment I walked out here," she continued, gathering force. "I've promoted your show. I've been kind to your staff. And this is how you repay me, by ambushing me with personal attacks dressed up as jokes." Kimmel opened his mouth, but she stopped him with a single motion. The power in the room had shifted, and everyone could feel it. "You know what the worst part is?" Her voice dropped to a dangerous whisper, more potent than a shout. "You think you're entitled to my pain? You think my struggles are your content. My heartbreak your material." She began pacing behind her chair, unable to contain the surge of energy coursing through her. "But you've never had to face what I have. You've never had your worth questioned because of your personal choices." The cameras caught everything as Kimmel sat frozen, his trademark quick wit gone. In the booth, writers scrambled for damage control, but nothing could save the moment. The host who built a career on making others uncomfortable was now drowning in it. And he clearly didn't know what to do. "I've watched you do this to other women," Aniston went on, her voice gathering force like a storm. "You did it to Anne Hathaway about her relationships. You did it to Charlize Theron about her dating life. You think it's funny to reduce accomplished women to their romantic status, as if that's all we're worth discussing." Each line landed like a courtroom charge, backed by years of witnessed humiliation. The audience began murmuring, some nodding at the pattern she described. Several women looked visibly moved. Others seemed uneasy, confronting truths they'd once laughed at. The studio crackled with tension and realization. Kimmel finally managed to speak, but only in a thin croak. "Jennifer, I think you're misunderstanding my intention. I was just trying to have a conversation about her laugh," cut him off, bitter and humorless. "A conversation?" she said, eyebrows raised. "Is that what you call ambushing someone with deeply personal attacks? Because I must have missed the part where you asked my consent to discuss my reproductive choices on national television." Her sarcasm sliced through the last pretense of civility. As Aniston moved closer to his desk, she commanded the room. "You want to know what's really pathetic, Jimmy? You punch down. You go after women because you know we're trained to take it gracefully. You'd never say this to a male guest. You know they'd walk out or punch you in the face." Kimmel had gone chalk white, sweat beading as the magnitude of his mistake sank in. Smugness gave way to genuine fear, not of a fight, but of professional collapse. Every word she spoke was going out live, and he could feel his career shaking. "I've been nothing but professional with you," she continued, her voice calm and controlled, making it cut deeper. "I came here to do my job, promote my work, be a good guest, and you repaid that by trying to humiliate me for entertainment." Backstage, production assistants were in full panic, calling executives and legal. This wasn't a rough segment anymore. It was a PR catastrophe with consequences far beyond tonight. Online, clips and commentary were already exploding. "You know what's saddest?" Her voice hitched, revealing the emotion under her anger. "I actually respected you once. I thought you were different. I thought you understood there's a line between comedy and cruelty." The disappointment landed harder than fury. Kimmel made one last, strained attempt. "Jennifer, please can we take a step back? Maybe we got off on the wrong foot, but I never meant to." "You never meant to? What?" she snapped. "Never meant to hurt me. Never meant to cross the line. Or never meant to get caught doing what you do to women every single night on this show." The questions hung like indictments. The audience was silent, now some ashamed for laughing earlier. Others angry at being made complicit in what they now recognized as systematic harassment disguised as entertainment. The room had shifted from merely uneasy to openly hostile, and Kimmel was clearly buckling under the crowd's collective judgment. "You want to know what real comedy is, Jimmy?" Aniston's voice settled into a dangerous calm, more unnerving than her earlier anger. "Real comedy doesn't need to tear women down to get laughs. Real comedy doesn't feed on someone else's pain. But you wouldn't know that, would you? Your entire career has been built on cheap shots and low blows." Her words landed with total finality. Kimmel looked like a man watching his world collapse in slow motion. His hands trembled on the desk as he grasped for anything that might stop the bleeding. But Aniston wasn't done. "I've sat through thousands of interviews in my career," she continued, her tone carrying the authority of someone at a breaking point. "I've smiled through inappropriate questions, laughed at jokes at my expense, and played along because that's what we're expected to do. Not tonight. Tonight, I'm done pretending this is acceptable." A few audience members began a slow clap that swelled into a wave. This wasn't canned studio enthusiasm. It was genuine respect for someone finally saying what needed to be said. The sound seemed to steel Aniston further. "You've shown everyone watching exactly who you are," she said, gesturing toward the still rolling cameras. "You've revealed that behind the jokes and the charm, you're just another man who thinks a woman's pain is your entertainment. And now everyone knows it." Kimmel tried one last grasp at control. "Jennifer, I think we're both getting a little heated. Maybe we should know, Jimmy. We're not both anything," she cut in. "Final. This is you. Your show. Your choice to attack me. Your decision to double down when you should have apologized. Own it." Each line hit like a hammer, nailing shut the coffin of his credibility. Backstage was Chaos Network execs shouting into phones. Lawyers called in, social media managers watching as hashtags demanding Kimmel's firing began trending worldwide. The damage raced beyond the studio at lightning speed. Aniston drew a deep breath and squared her shoulders, returning to the consummate professional she'd always been now with a clear line drawn. I came here to promote my work and be a good guest. Instead, I've been forced to defend my basic human dignity on national television. She turned to the audience, ignoring Kimmel. To everyone at home, you deserve better than this. You deserve hosts who lift people up, not tear them down. And women everywhere deserve respect, not to be turned into punchlines for someone else's career. The applause was thunderous, sustained, real. People stood, some in tears, moved by someone finally challenging a system they'd felt powerless against. Aniston walked back to her seat, lifted her purse with deliberate calm. "I won't be finishing this interview," she announced over the ovation. "And I won't return to shows that treat women as targets instead of guests." She turned and left, head high, dignity intact. The cheers grew louder. As she disappeared backstage, the cameras caught Kimmel alone at his desk, smaller than he'd ever seemed. The clapping went on for minutes. When it finally faded, the silence was deafening. The show cut to an unplanned commercial break, but the damage was done. Within hours, the confrontation went viral across every platform. "Respect Jennifer Aniston and Kimmel must go" trended worldwide as millions shared clips and voiced support for her stand. Major advertisers began pulling sponsorships before the night was over. Emergency meetings were called. Other women in the industry shared similar stories, triggering a domino effect that would reshape how talk shows operate. Jennifer Aniston entered that studio as a guest promoting a project. She left as a symbol of change, delivering a masterclass in standing up to bullies with grace, strength, and unwavering dignity. Entertainment would never be quite the same.